All right, and we are back with episode 95 of The Bench, where last week we were very charitable and happy and optimistic about what was going to be happening with 12.0.5, but now we are back this week, and things have been moving in a very interesting direction. Squishy, how has your happy patch day, or happy patch week, of course, how's your patch been?
My patch has been a buggy mess. I rated on Tuesday. I don't know, did you guys rate on Tuesday?
Well, of course.
Oh,
we're,
yeah.
We're stupid.
Why the fuck did we raid on Tuesday, guys? I don't know how your raid went. We had a battle constant DCs. It wasn't mass DCs, to be clear. It was one person with DC every other pull, which was fantastic. There was the private aura bug that was clogging up our raid frames, and just taking up way too much space. Addons were broken. That's nothing new, but yeah, we had a very interesting time raiding this week.
Yeah, I
Girl,
think
how did your raid go?
It was a nightmare. I guess we can we started last episode with talking about Belner, and we can start this episode with the Growl Guild update again. So I don't know what it is. I can't tell who from the guild or if it's everybody collectively. Like, why do people care so much about guild rank? Like, I feel like basically Bellerin dies or we die. That's what happens tonight. So we had as I mentioned earlier, we had the tank problem of somebody. We lost the tank mid prog again. So then we have
many tiers is this, by the way, that this happens?
I mean, every tier. It's literally every tier, man. I can't believe it. And so we have another guy in our guild who was like kind of gonna tank, but he lives in Australia, I think, and so the connection and stuff just didn't really work. He just kind of like hangs out in the guild and does 7+. So we tried having him tank, and it's just so bad. Like the terrible ping in combination with the everything going on. Like I don't know if he was having specific problems or it was just his internet or ping or all of the above, but we basically did nothing this week. Like the last day of progging Bellerin was just our tank DCing and crashing and blowing up and stuff happening. So we raided Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And people were tilted to the point where we actually ended raid early. We called raid like 45 minutes early because it was just every single pull we couldn't do anything. And then now we've conscripted the aid of 2 ringers who are subbing in, who I can only imagine we're paying them because these are people that would not show up for free. One of which is Dorky. And I guess we're just conscripting new players and hiring mercenaries in for our guild now. And if we don't kill Bellerin on Monday, and then so we can get the 6th vault or whatever and extend, I feel like our people are going to be really, really mad. And in hindsight, like, I thought it was, our guild is sucking. But I mean, I really think we had a lot of hurt pulls because of the problems with the add-ons and the not necessarily I mean, these are Blizzard problems. Let me clarify, right? These are Blizzard problems and bugs that were in the game. But yeah, our prog it was a rough week.
Okay.
Yeah, I think to answer the question, why do people care so much about guild rank? I mean, it's just ego. Ultimately, the answer is just ego. You want to compare yourself and your accomplishments to other people and guilds and whatever else. Potentially even compare them like internally, right, with how you've been doing in the past. And you just want to kind of see either, natural progression and ultimately you care about maybe not increasing your rank, but at least, maintaining the course. And if your rank ever starts to slip, then you feel like, oh, something's going wrong. We need to fix this. We need to course correct. I think it's just ego is mostly.
I guess the main thing is like, so we have a tank who kind of subbed in last minute, and he's basically like, he was like I don't really want to overtime kind of guy, and that was the plan. Really, this raid was like not raid Mondays, like only raid 9 hours a week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
That's not bad.
And like, it's one of those things where like, okay, if everyone can show up Monday and whatever, like we just want to prog or we're close to killing a boss, we'll do it, right? But otherwise, like not really. But if being in a guild that just turns into every Monday, right? But it's like, why? Like at this point, okay, the tier is kind of tanked and like we're not super, like, can we just say, okay, let's just not, like, why are we still trying to raid Mondays? Like, and it's not just Drogo or just one people. Like, it seems like so many people want to do it in the guild, or maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but I don't even understand why. But I just have a problem with this whole like culture in guilds about raiding more and more.
It sounds like your guild's goals are misaligned. Not everybody has the exact same
Yeah,
goals.
no, that's definitely true. That's definitely true. And I think it's important for people. The takeaway is not anything negative about our guild or even like, it's more so that it's really, really important to have everyone's goals aligned and have everyone on the same page, because I feel like we went into this tier not necessarily having that, and we kind of, lost a lot of people and shifted a lot of people around, and now we're at a point where it's like different people want different things. But I actually really like all the people in my guild, and I like raiding with them, and I have fun. So it's kind of like annoying that we can't all get along and figure shit out. And I just want to like show up to raid whenever people want to and have fun and not care about guild rank, but everyone else does.
I mean, that's kind of. I think that my guild really does a good job of like making sure that everybody's goals are absolutely aligned with one another. I mean, that was one of the things that was asked of me whenever I wanted to join Nerfed, was like, am I going to be happy in this kind of situation where there's no splits, there's no alts, and we don't really care about guild rank too much? Like, we do get a decent rank every tier, but we're not rating more for guild rank. We're not playing for guild rank. We're playing to be the best that we can be. And for me, I've been in guilds for a very long time where the guild rank was the only thing that mattered, right? I was in Vesper for like a couple of years. I was in AK for like forever. In Might, I think we had a little bit of a different culture where we didn't care too much about guild ranks, but I was in guilds that rated a lot and cared about guild rank a lot. So then stepping into a guild that was less like that, there was a question of like, is that going to be something I was happy with? But I think that's something that my guild does that's really good, is that everybody's on the same page in terms of what are our goals, and the culture is like set in that way.
Yeah, your goal is to complete the raid with a Prot Warrior and Guardian Druid every tier.
That's right. That's and probably the worst healing comp of all time. Like every single tier.
You've been in Might. You know the healing comp situation in Might sometimes, but it is what it is.
I feel like you guys are definitely way more hardcore than whenever I was in Might. You guys are rating a lot more and are doing splits and have alt characters.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's just every guild, no? Like, every guild is... I mean, that's like every WoW player. Like, that's something that WoW does to you. I don't know why, but it progresses you towards caring more and more and trying harder and harder.
I mean, when did you guys pick up splits? Like, that was like the end of Dragonflight or something, right?
Something around there. I mean, we just had more time than things to do.
That's valid. I mean, I've never really considered it like that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, for the mantra for Might for the longest time is like, we are not going to be doing splits. We will never have splits. Like, if whenever I was in Might, if we brought in somebody's alt character, it was one person who we thought could play their alt character at a decent level.
Yeah. But I mean, I will say the game has changed now as well, in that, especially this tier, you have to comp stack. Like, you need 2 DKs for every end boss. Like, that is non-negotiable. You need 2 DKs for Lyra. You need 2 DKs for Ilaria. You really, early on you needed 2 to 3 hunters for paladins. Bellerin, you need immunities. Like, this tier especially, the rerolling is off the charts. Like, yes, people are always going to, but even like the multi-classing, we try to not do it sometimes, but it's just, it happens. You know Word Up, right?
Yeah.
The enhancement shaman. He's playing Hunter now, by the way.
Does he play Hunter?
He does now, because enhance is just that bad, and they needed hunters for immunities on Bellerin and like for good damage. And it's just like, he hates it from what I've talked with him about. But there's that pressure of like, the class balance is so bad, and we need immunities for Bellerin. Crazy, by the way. We didn't mention this. They buffed Ilaria after the Hall of Fame closed by nerfing the immunity strategy.
That was
wild.
That was really weird. I mean, nobody who's rating at a decent level, after you kill Illyria once, you don't go back and kill that boss again. You're like,
we haven't gone back.
I mean, that fight's like not that easy to re-kill, and you're like, we'll get it later.
Yeah. And then they buffed that, and then didn't touch immunities on Bellerin, which is arguably the bigger issue. Is just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous this tier.
Yeah, I think there's a trade-off to be had. I sympathize with the comp requirements or balance being bad, but part of WoW raid design, and I think it was doubled down in this expansion, is just trying to make more unique fights and more different things and damage amps and 3-target cleave and all this stuff. And that leads to oh well, we really need this. And on top of the whole DK is a raid buff shtick that is probably going to start to fade out. Oh, we're gonna design raids so that we need DK grips. Like that was just what they did because DKs didn't want that, but they wanted to be a needed part of the raid and not
Yeah.
rely on their class being OP.
I remember like a lot of the notes surrounding like the reason that Blizzard was swapping to 20-man locked content whenever like Mythic was coming out was kind of related to this conversation that we're having right now about when is it acceptable for Blizzard to expect you to be able to stack your composition with some things that are required. And I remember this conversation also got reopened up around Gahoon when before Warlocks were required on Gahoon, and Blizzard was basically like, yeah, I mean, you're progging the end boss of a Mythic raid, and we think that it's okay for at least an extended period of time for 4 Warlocks to be required on this fight. What players might think is it may be different than what Blizzard kind of interprets as what is acceptable class balance, because at the end of the day, you're whenever you're talking about immunities, you're talking about immunities on a fight like Beleren. I mean, that's the penultimate encounter of the raid tier. When is a comp stack required? I think it also kind of depends on what how much of a comp stack is required. I think Beleren is kind of unique in the sense that it is a lot of immunities, kind of the same thing that N'Zoth had, where I think N'Zoth had like 10 immunities that was needed. Argus was like, you wanted like 12 immunities. There were a couple fights historically that are like really annoying. So it does kind of depend on like how wide the comp stack is, but I don't think it's like completely unreasonable for Blizzard to be like, yeah, we expect you to have these things. Like the 2 DKs, I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation.
I want to say something.
I want to. Okay, you go ahead.
Grau, you said something earlier. They want to do more unique fights, make cool things. The problem is with 2 DKs or the DK raid buff being grip, every single end boss is now going to have adds that spawn away from the boss that your just only goal is to grip them in. That is so one-dimensional. That is the complete opposite of a unique boss fight. Like, I don't understand why they made grip their raid buff instead of giving people what they actually wanted, which was just like an actual fucking raid buff.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
And they gave Hunter something, right? Like every single end boss, like it's so binary that either the end boss is gonna have adds that you need to grip him that spawn away that there's no other way to get in, or there's not. At which point the DKs are gonna be upset. There's no winning here because of this design.
So a counterpoint. What did you think about? I mean, Warlocks are required on Dimensius and Lura for 2-sided gates, right? Like you have the rooms.
Warlocks are not needed for Lura.
I mean,
do not need that.
I mean, they're nice though, right?
They're like low on the totem pole. In order of Lura, it's like double DK, double Hunter, double DH, and then like Warlock. Down there is like the Monk and the Warlock, because you're just gonna run. Like, oh no, I lost a little DPS, right? Like, especially the raid buff, it doesn't matter. The Warlock is not required on Lura.
Well, that's the point that I wanted to get to was you use the word required and needed, and I know there are going to be some raid leaders that are shaking their head being like, this guy has no idea what he's talking about, but in theory, all of these situations you can design around trying to figure out a way to deal with it without these things. I think DK grip and Warlock gateways are weird specifics because they specifically design mechanics, like you said, because they want those classes to be required in the raid. But ultimately, when it comes to immunities and all those sorts of things, yeah, it's easy. Like, it makes the fight easier to if you have these things, but it's not unsolvable. Like, one example is it's a less good example, but on Paladins, there's the dispels that go out. And we were progging Paladins in our weekend raid, and they came to the conclusion that we need to get the dispel weak aura because we're dying to dispels. And it's like, no, we don't. We need to do the mechanic the way it was intended of, okay, if 2 healers overlap a dispel, you check your cooldown and you realize when you need to reuse it. Does that suck sometimes? Yeah, but like, that's the mechanic they made, and just because you can solve it with a dispel assignment weak aura doesn't mean that you have to.
Yeah, I understand the required thing. Like on Alaria, can you even knock the adds over the gap in the last phase? Like, does it allow that?
Well, Okay, DK grip, like I said, DK grip and Warlock gate are specifics, right? They do design mechanics that the only solvable ways to use those things because that's their quote unquote raid buff. But
Yeah.
anything else in terms of you need X number of immunities or you need multiple of certain classes, I believe is almost always down to making it easier, but it's not needed or required.
I would agree with that. I mean, N'Zoth only had 10 immunities because it made the. Do you guys like? My understanding of the N'Zoth fight was the intermission was so boring because it was cheesed.
The Void Annihilator, the Void Spawn Annihilator intermission.
Yeah, do you remember how that was like a mana regen phase for your healers?
Yeah, who cheat? How do you cheese that phase?
Everyone did because the idea was you got no sanity drain from the soak, right? Because you immuned it, which didn't drain sanity, meaning you had more clicks for the intermission phase, meaning there was less raid damage.
Oh,
That is my understanding of the intended
what was the
strategy.
intended like that doesn't make any sense.
You take the sanity drain, meaning you need to use more regeneration Heart of Azeroths, meaning you have less clicks in the intermission phase, meaning it's more of a like healing intensive phase.
Was the enrage even hittable if you use too many there? Like, is that real?
no idea.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No
like, how do you even get to the enrage?
But that backs up what Growl is saying, right? Like, people do unintended things to make things easier, but it's not always intended. But as long as there's a way through that is semi-reasonable, I don't see a problem with that. But people are always going to choose the path of least resistance because of guild ranks.
Yep.
That's true. I mean, Argus, I think, is a good example of that, where Argus was like, you could immune off the chains, and it was kind of honestly similar to the Illyria mechanic, where like you just like wouldn't even get raid damage happening, and sometimes you would like you'd have everybody pressing their immunes on specific sets, and sometimes you get like 0 chains, and it'd be like, this is the most OP shit I've ever seen. It didn't make the boss like. You wouldn't one-shot the boss because of it, but it made it so much easier. You were removing the mechanic.
Yep. And they actually nerfed that one correctly eventually.
Did they?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Tettles, you're on Lura now. How are you finding Lura?
I don't know. I'm sitting in Silvermoon. No, that's fine.
Oh.
Ooh.
Oh. I see.
My guild looks like they're doing great, progressing it. I checked the log.
My guild looks like they're doing great.
I checked the guild Discord channel. I hang out for a little bit during raid, and then I'm like, all right, I will not be needed. And then I'm like, all right, I'm out of here. And then I check the logs after the fact, and my guild looks like they're doing a great job. They, after 100 pulls, they are consistently wiping in phase 1 still.
That's every guild, man. That's every fucking guild. Phase 1's hard.
Yeah. We made it to phase 2 after like 40 attempts, I think. So
yeah, Sent sent me that. That was sick.
Yeah, I think they're doing good.
Consistency is the fucking issue. But I miss the Tettles clips that would have occurred on this boss.
Me getting hit by the glaive?
I don't know, anything. The beam, the glaive.
Dude, I feel like I was a pumpkin on Bellerin. I feel like I'd be a pumpkin on that fight too. Like just completely stand like an actual follower dungeon mob doing nothing, waiting for the people who are doing mechanics to actually do the mechanics. It's just like, I don't know. There's not enough space for people who can't carry seeds and don't do damage.
Fair enough.
We were paving the way though. We're going to be the world's first guild to kill that boss with a Restoration Shaman.
Could be us.
Are you guys playing
I've
Resto
been
Shaman
seeing
too?
people play Resto Shaman
Resto
and
Shaman.
Mythic Plus.
That's
Have you guys been seeing that?
Yeah.
Apparently it's good now.
I don't know. I don't think that spec was ever actually that bad.
We're seeing the rise of the Phys comp. I don't know if this is a new archetype, if balance is good, or if this was something that was always good and people just chose not to do. But it seems like now every season this is cropping up with these groups like Porcy's group and Squish Vegan, the off meta every season kind of guys. It seems like this just comes up and seems to be decent now.
I think it's definitely better this season specifically for healers. Right? I mean, even if you look at the top 2,000 keys, Restoration Druid is still the best, but now you have Resto Shaman and Mistweavers taking up some of the share. I mean, if you click on the front page, pretty much everybody's still playing Resto Druid, but like there are still some other healers that are seeing some share. I think the biggest thing is the tank representation. It's not, to me, it's like this is normal for like this is an average season for tanks. Maybe it's a little bit worse. The bigger thing, at least in my opinion, is that it feels so fucking bad to play with any tank that's not a Brewmaster Monk. They just get absolutely rocked all the time, and it feels like impossible for them to be able to live.
I don't know why they're like they did some tuning with 1205, but it was the most minuscule like stuff that didn't matter. And I don't know why there hasn't been more. It doesn't make any sense.
For Mythic Plus, the balancing has not been great, and the 12.05 patch was essentially like the rich got richer, right? Like they buffed Resto Druid, they buffed Devour, and I think Unholy ended up getting buffed
Unholy
too,
still
right?
got a nerf in the end. Or sorry,
it's still still buffed in the end.
Very small, smaller than projected, but due to bug fixes and stuff. But it's still up there. I know people's reaction.
I'm gonna make a positive segue here before we continue bashing the patch and saying everything negative. What I thought you were gonna ask Tettles about was his Zero to Hero series, and that you pugged your way up to what 16, 17s. What was 3400?
Yeah, 16 and 17s. I timed. Yeah, it was pretty much 16s and 17s.
So how was it? What is it like now that you're officially a healer?
Well, I don't think Holy Priest is that bad. At the same time, I didn't really know how to play Holy Priest. I never read a guide, which was it's very interesting. I think 3400 this season it was really weird. So like last season I did it on tank, and it took me I think it was 95 hours to be able to get basically top 1% on tank. It was about 45 hours for me to do it on an elemental shaman, which I never really I played a lot of the range DPS, so I'm not super shocked that it took me 45 hours. And it also took me 45 hours to play Holy Priest to 3400, which is a little bit below the 1% that I went last year. At the same time, I think 1% is a little bit more competitive this season. So yeah, it was pretty good. I think that I had a lot of fun playing healer. I think that healer actually feels very similar to DPS as a whole, just in terms of like what your objective is in the dungeon. There are I would say more peaks and valleys where sometimes you're literally just sitting there mashing Smite and Holy Nova and trying to do as much DPS as possible while nothing is happening. And there are moments of time where you were like, oh my god, I'm in hell. But whereas a DPS, I would say that the difficulty is more gradual, but I think they feel very similar. I think that tank is much, much, much harder in Mythic Plus. I think undeniably, but I had fun. I think it was pretty fun challenge just to be able to go from 0 to 3400 in like 45 hours or so.
What were like some of the hardest parts or the stuff that you struggled with or like the biggest obstacles that you also think other people will run into?
I mean, are you talking about like dungeon difficulty? Or are you talking about like logistical challenges?
Anything, honestly, just anything. Let's say someone is like, I'm a 3K player. I want to try and get 3400 for the mount, and I want to try it as a healer.
I think the biggest mistake that people are going to make is they're going to try to pug into other people's dungeons consistently, and I think that is just a massive, massive, massive waste of time. Your key is meant to be depleted. For better or worse, people view their key way too sacred, in my opinion. Your key really is meant to be depleted, so I listed my key exclusively. That way, I was able to be, almost as selective as I wanted to be whenever I was forming the groups. And I think that is a big deal for being able to continue to improve, because while your key may go down and you're offering it up as collateral, I think the upside of being able to pick your group and to pick the people that you're playing with is a huge deal, because I think group selection, especially this season, matters a lot. I realize something very early on. I hate healing tanks, so any tank that wasn't self-sufficient was really kind of off the table for me. I do not like healing tanks. That shit sucks. And there are a couple of DPS specializations, Unholy DK and Devour Demon Hunter, that do not require any fucking healing. And so if I could overload my compositions with more of those, to the point where I was willing to play 2 DKs and Demon Hunter multiple times and just bang the fucking drums on cooldown, like that was, all right, you know what? Why not? These guys don't need healing. Everybody's able to just live on their own without anything going on. It was like, I think that group selection is a huge deal that is very much overlooked.
I think Devour right now has the Unholy or the DK thing from last expansion, where they are just immortal.
Yeah,
their defensive capabilities and healing capabilities are so high, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see another note similar to the DK one. I don't remember what it was. I remember it was very funny to read though. Groud, do you remember what I'm talking about? The note about DK survivability in the 0.1 patch?
I don't remember that. I thought they've always been good and nothing changed.
No.
Unless I'm
The
misremembering.
developer note. Like when they nerfed DK survivability, it was like we're too immortal or something like that. Something hilarious. Let me see if I can
Oh,
find
they
it.
basically went out and admitted it. Yeah. One thing I wanted to talk about on the subject of tank healing, we were talking about brewmasters. Does it feel like you can almost carry a bad brewmaster much easier than any other tank? As a brewmaster, even if they're taking a lot of damage, that tank you can always just heal them a lot and force them to be alive. And healer power is high as it's ever been. Whereas any other tank, it feels like if they mess up, they just like die. Did you have that observation?
I didn't really have that observation. Granted, I was only doing like 16s, right? I was doing like 16s, 17s, something like that. Like, I think that player skill matters so much at that level where good players, even on bad classes, don't take any damage, and bad players on good classes take the fucking most damage in the world, right? So I would never chalk it up to class. I would be like, this guy is getting slammed. Please press your buttons. And then I would look back in the VOD and he's just not pressing Fort Brew and he's just dying. And I'm just like, well, I mean, I can't outkill that, right?
The differences at that level are player skill based, and that's way bigger than the class to class.
There's definitely a level though where that does matter because from what I've heard from doing my few 16s that I've done, is like I play with a Blood DK friend, and he is just like, I cannot move away from these mobs in seat because they will charge me and I will instantly die. Whatever the champions or whatever.
Yeah.
And a brewmaster just doesn't give a fuck. Like, and that's the level, like, it feels like there's just a lot of EHP checks for tanks again. And guess who's the EHP king? Brewmaster.
I think that Brewmaster should also not be taking those charges from those mobs in seat. Like,
probably not, but like you have that safety net of not getting one shot if you fuck up as a Brewmaster.
Okay.
The tank masters, like if you don't press your defensive on a Brewmaster, you dip down to 75, 25% health, you take a large stagger, but like Garl said, you can kind of heal it back up. But with the Blood DK, you just get one shot. You just die.
So the thing, especially at a high level, that's true about Brewmaster, that's not true about all the other tanks, is like Brewmaster is able to dodge a lot of the tank busters on the season, where most of the other tanks are not. Which I think that has this like really weird texture for like Brewmaster is the best tank, Brewmaster has the best survivability, and then they dodge a bunch of the tank busters on top of that. So I think that that's like a really big deal. I think something that was also kind of interesting about the season is like I kind of came in with a plan in terms of like what am I supposed to do to get geared, and after I don't even know, like 6 hours maybe, I was 270 item level and was very close to being able to get my 4 set. Like I just needed 2 KIO basically to get my 4 set, and it was very strange to be able to just like snap my fingers and have that much gear. But and then I used my bonus rolls in Nexus Point Zenith too, and it was like I think that also helped a lot because that made me figure out like, oh, where am I going to be crafting? Because I think crafting is so undeniably OP. I think I ended up with like 4 crafted pieces and 2 bonus roll pieces of Mithrak gear, and it's just like, all right, yeah, lovely.
Another thing, a big topic that we talked about in last week's episode was the new rewards, the 3400 title and the 1% title. So you took a class that you've never played before, essentially, and you got to 3400, and you see the level of difficulty of the keys, and you play with those people. How do you feel that goal is now? We mentioned there was some debate right about they're putting a collector mount on keys that will be pretty hard.
Yeah.
You think, like, let's say you're a gamer dad or a collector dude and you don't really care that much about M+. What do you think about 3400 as a goal now?
I think 3400 is pretty easy. I think if you can get AOTC, you can probably get 3400 at some point during the season. Obviously, it might not be early on in the season, but I think like especially as you get to the 285s item level, you're probably capable of doing it. It is going to take you more time. Like for me, right now, I could pretty convincingly heal 18s. That's about the skill level that my Holy Priest, I think, is at.
Which is crazy if you think about it.
18s are
not looking up a guide.
Yeah, they're not too hard. I mean, they're not too easy.
Yeah.
Like the 18s, they do a lot of damage. I healed I was actually playing my Holy Priest in some 18s this week, kind of inspired by your keys, wanting to play it more. And 18s are not super easy. Like there are definitely some challenging content. But that is beyond. Now we're entering closer to the 1% title category.
Yeah,
And you made a good point too about gear. Like for these people, maybe waiting till the very end of the season when you're mega bist out is definitely going to be the play rather than, trying to do it in your first week of gameplay like you are on your priest.
finding a tank is a fucking impossible challenge, by the way. There's just nobody playing tank. I feel like that was the hardest, the most frustrating part of the entire thing is just like nobody's playing tank.
Yeah, we had something about it as well, and it fucking took off. Like I knew it's always been bad. Is it extra bad this season, or is it just like it's just the same, but people are extra mad because it's an easy season, so they spend more time in queue than completing the key type thing?
I think it's the same level of bad. I think the key levels are starting to get spread again, right? Where the whenever there aren't rewards, as weird as it sounds, the player base is condensed down into a couple of keystone levels, right? I bet there's plenty of tanks for 10s and 12s. The problem is if you're trying to do a 14, how many tanks are trying to tank a 14? How many tanks are trying to tank a 15, right? Like that's kind of the problem, is that now more people are trying to continue to progress up. But where are the tanks for these specific keystone levels? Where do they exist? And they don't really, it's always been spread thin as a role. But now if you're spreading the player base more thin because there are more keystone levels that matter to people, where are the tanks?
Well, so I have a working theory about tanks right now, and it's that the biggest problem with playing tank is that when you don't know what's going on or you make a mistake, it oftentimes costs you an entire wipe or even an entire key depletion, right? Of having a bad route. Or whereas any other class, if you make a mistake, usually you just die and then you get rezzed, and there's this allowance of battle reses in the key. As a healer, there's a little bit of that, right? As a healer, sometimes when you make mistakes, you can wipe the group. And one direction that Mythic Plus has been going in is the idea of not having these really big pass fails that just wipe the group that DPS do, right? Because we've been saying, oh, hey, these aren't fun. We hate these. We hate kicks. We hate stops. All the things that DPS players had to do. And now it's a point where it's pretty hard for a DPS player to actually wipe the group or cause a deplete unless you're just really, really bad damage, to the point where there's just so much more weight placed on the tank's shoulders now. So I actually think the problem is getting worse. And as a DPS player, it gets weird because you have so little responsibility. Then you get to 18s and 19s where suddenly it is where all of the, okay, now I need to learn to use my alter time and my barrier and my ice cold and how to position and do all this, make sure that I'm kicking during these overlaps. And it's like a huge overload of responsibility where I would say at the higher end, obviously everybody needs to play well, but I'm just wondering what you guys think about that. I think it's actually getting worse with tanks now where they have even more responsibility.
I don't think they have more responsibility. I think it's just the same level of shitty as it always has been, but I think that I wouldn't be shocked if less people are like interested in playing tank. Like the career tanks are re-rolling off of the role because the game is not designed for them. Like it really just isn't.
It's also just like when you're playing tank, you have to be on. You have to be ready. Like you can't just like have a chill time as a tank in a 7 relevant key. I can vibe, listen to music, not join voice, pug in a 10 to 12. I just be payphoning my buttons and doing 70%. If I'm not paying full attention, be perfectly fine. A tank, you can't do that. You'll wipe the group, or you'll pull too much, or you'll let someone die because they butt pulled something or whatever, right? Like,
I mean, I still think it really comes down to as well, like we're talking about like the intricacies of like playing the role. I think the problem is that people are not willing to even play the role at like the login screen. Like, but before you even committed 1,000 hours, or a lot of the audience here like 500 days to playing the game or whatever the hell you guys are at. Most people, like, they sat there and somebody explained what the role of tank was to them, and they were like, I'm unwilling to even try. And like, I think that's like also a big roadblock for people. Like the fact that there was 15 years ago or 20 years ago or 25 years ago, people who decided to pick a DPS instead of picking and trying a tank. I think that also is very bad. Obviously, it's not fixable because we're 20 years deep into the game or whatever. It's just tough. I mean, I don't know. I don't think Blizzard can do anything to fix it specifically. They could try to make it easier for those people who already play tank, though.
So breaking news, Blizzard is once again doing Mythic Plus dungeon tuning.
Huh?
And they're increasing the Algathar Academy timer by another minute.
Okay.
I'll be honest, I feel like all this does is it offsets the bird snap.
I got great news.
Well, I guess we can jump ahead.
I have a cool thing to show for this week. There's been a way to fix and do the bird snap, and we call this the Uno reverse bird snap, where instead of Wernstone snapping the birds to the platform, what if you just snapped the Guardian Sentry to cross-platform? And with Wind Gust Potion and Parasols, it is 100% consistent. They do fall off here. I did end up watching this group later on, and they were able to make it 100% consistent with Wind Gust Potions and Parasols. So, it's back on the table. I do think that I do think a minute to the timer makes sense regardless. Like, I think that timer is quite tight. High keys, independently of high keys or not, that timer is the tightest on the season.
That interaction of people going ahead to snap the birds back only to have Blizzard fix it and make it so you can't do that.
Yeah.
Then to have players then snap it in the opposite direction to get the guy onto the bird platform is really just a microcosm of all of the things that encapsulate World of Warcraft. Like, what an absolutely perfect situation to have happened. And yeah,
the worst thing
it's
about
symbolic.
This is Tettles didn't even mention the middle step that happened in between this, which is how Blizzard implemented the first fix, which was they added an invisible line, like 2 feet off the edge of the platform, which removes Wernstone.
Yes.
They were like, how do we fix this, guys? Let's remove Wernstone, I guess, and they can't teleport back. Yeah, that'll fix it. Where do you want to do that? Oh, like 2 feet off the platform. Okay. So then what people were originally doing was they would recast Wernstone after that miniature line there.
Yep.
Which is perfectly fine. Because for some reason, they decided to put the line on this side of the platform instead of the far side of the platform. Just fucking insane.
Absolutely hilarious, by the way.
It reminds me of the last boss of Skyreach where it spawns that bird that picks you up. Funny enough, Mage cannot alter time that. Because the bird, if you alter, the bird will grab you and then it'll just remove your alter time right before it drops you off, and then it just kills you anyway.
Yeah.
Good to know.
But yeah, I mean, that got the Algathar Academy snap got fixed. Heavy quotations on the word fixed here. And then there was another fix in Skyreach where there was
they fixed a lot. By the way.
There was birds being taken into the second boss from the third boss area. They were taking those birds into the second boss and just killing them off. Blizzard fixed that. The fix on that was the funniest shit I've ever seen too. It just ports you back into the middle of the hitbox of the boss, and now people are using just fucking pet attack macros and able to grab the birds anyways, because, well, if you don't cross this invisible wall, it can't snap you back into the middle of the hitbox of the boss and wipe you. Instead, they're just pet attack macroing the pack and bringing it. And
stupid.
And there was also one where there was like Seed of the Triumvirate had a way to take the boss out of the first out of the arena.
It didn't reset. That's all it was.
Yeah, now that's fixed.
They also just fixed today, it wasn't covered, but I saw it, the exploit where the boss just spam cast Leap because he line of sighted.
You could LOS that?
Yeah, you could LOS that, and he would cast nothing until he successfully cast that. Meaning he would do nothing. If it goes on your healer, you would just have your healer constantly go in and out of line of sight, or whatever. I don't know exactly how it worked, but that's what I heard. He just spam recast it.
Are you for or against them fixing tech, Growl, just in Mythic Plus in general?
I personally like the Wild West approach of just leave everything and have it there, with an asterisk of sometimes you have to change things if it's incredibly degenerate or time wasting. So examples of that I can think of in BFA, two fixes that I liked were when you had to go into the dungeon and set something up in M0. I don't think that should be in the game. Or when you could take the last boss buff of Temple of... Well, that was also an M0 exploit too, wasn't it? So I guess that would summarize everything then. I think going into M0 and setting stuff up is bad, or using stuff like weird toys and stuff can be bad too. But anything in the dungeon, I say just leave it. But we've entered this era where I genuinely think it started with the Plague Borer incident with Echo, where Blizzard now cares a lot more about the presentation and the bugs and the rules and stuff about what goes on in the tournaments, and therefore that involves them having to fix these things and change these things, right? Because what is a bug, what isn't a bug, and it's this ridiculous game of cat and mouse that makes me just want to go back to the do whatever you want thing, even if it causes for some problems in MDI from time to time.
I actually think tech is actually really cool and separates a lot of, like, there are things in the MDI, a tech that you would only find in the MDI because people are going to keep it secret. I think that's cool. I think the worst case scenario is what they did here, which is they fixed it in quotation marks and just completely bungled the fix and just made it something else and made it more like difficult to do.
Right.
I'd rather them just keep it. I do think that like clear exploits like boss arena shenanigans or infinitely casting, recasting mobs, or line of sighting stuff, that stuff I do think should probably go. But they seem to have a preference for no snapping. And I'm going to be honest, I think it's just probably part of the game at this point, and they just need to accept that. How like all the way back to Atal Dazar, right? Like they've tried to fix the Atal Dazar snaps, and that worked, but then it comes back in every other expansion afterwards, anyways.
I mean, it's just a thing with how Z-axis is coded in this game. Z-axis and moving mobs from platform to platform, right?
Yeah, it's no path available issues.
Yeah, it's pathing, right? It's sort of the same thing, but yeah.
Yeah. It's not Z-axis specific. It is path available.
They fixed snapping in Atal when that came back, but then it seems like that was the exception. Like they blacklisted snapping from Atal Dazar rather than blacklisting snapping from the game. It feels like snapping is just on for the rest of the game now, or still.
Snapping the Guardian Sentry to the fucking Groth platform is hysterical.
It is fucking hysterical. Where is that clip? I need to see that.
It's in our show notes.
Oh, good. I didn't see that all the way down there.
Yeah, no, people are now snapping the Guardian. Like I suspect that's about to be what's happening next. Is people are gonna Parasol win Gust Potion to make it consistent, and they're gonna just snap the Guardian Sentry. Like, well, okay, so snapping the Guardian Sentry is way better than snapping the birds to the platform too, because I'm pretty sure snapping that Guardian Sentry saves you like a minute and a half.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, like, have they gone further? I remember in Dragonflight, you used to be, or whatever that was, you used to be able to take the worms on the next platform to, like, can we snap that too, like, this point? Like,
those worms are really finicky. People have tried to snap them and they don't really work. I don't really know why, though. That pack also was different in the old Alg Academy. That didn't have a Reaver there.
True.
So those mobs are diabolical. You don't really want to be snapping them, but like people have tried and it doesn't work for whatever reason.
Funny.
Okay.
But anyways, yeah. So Al getting an extra minute. I mean, it'll be easier to time, I guess. But that timer's still really tight. Did you see the other change, by the way? Before we continue on, what trivia, Grau? What is that ability?
So it says coordinated assault based off of the patch. So the patch note reads, coordinated assault damage reduced by 30% and now ignores armor. My assumption of that is coordinated assault is the bow shooting from
the barrage.
No, that is barrage. Barrage or something like that.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure what that ability is then.
Yeah, this is a really weird ability, and I don't think most people know what this is, which is weird that they're nerfing this.
This is a tank hit, right?
Nope.
What?
This is the axe that he throws at you when you get kicked up into the air because you didn't get into an ice block when the bird charges you. Why are they nerfing this?
Yeah, what a strange change. Okay, now I understand why it was a trivia question. Yeah, I have no idea.
No,
yeah,
just a random leftover, who knows, change, I guess.
Yeah, you've seen that when Tettles doesn't get in a nice block and hits the freezing trap, you get launched up in the air, and you could normally be able to just flap down, but the boss chucks an axe at you and usually kills you because of it. But they're nerfing it and making it ignore armor, which is a change.
Probably makes it
that
do more
exists in this
damage.
game.
It might kill a Death Knight.
Maybe it has something to do with the level at which they want it to
Maybe.
pass fail, right? If it didn't ignore armor before it, like
Yeah.
they basically want it to kill you at a certain level, so this is just tuning so that they know what level it kills you at.
Yeah. All right. You guys ready to talk about all the nonsense that's been happening in 12.0.5?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh
right.
man, we gotta start with the big one, the bonus rolls.
Yeah.
That was what a mess that was.
So the patch came out this most recent week. If you haven't been keeping up, holy shit, it has been an absolute fiesta. So this is a historically buggy patch where we talked about it earlier. There has been this weird, on Tuesday, there was these weird DC issues where people just could not stay connected to the game. There seemed like there was some server instability that was really annoying. The bonus roll system, which is the marquee feature of the 12.0.5 patch, was bugged where the bonus roll protection, there's supposed to be BLP after you bonus roll a boss or a dungeon where you're not able to get those items again. That BLP was not implemented into the game at all, where people were getting item duplicates and everything, and it was just an absolute mess. There have been class bugs. Marksmanship Hunter was one-shotting people in PvP. Unholy DK randomly wasn't doing damage. There was other stuff like Preservation Evoker.
Reservations,
Yeah.
Dream Breath didn't do anything. You can see the rogue smoke bomb. That was a funny one.
Restoration Shaman didn't get their correct damage increase merged, right? They got a different damage increase merged.
Did you see the rogue smoke bomb one? They got a new animation for one of their abilities, and it just chucks a smoke bomb on the ground, except everybody could see the smoke bomb.
Yes, I've seen that. I was very confused. I saw it during my 0 to hero, and I was like, "What is this ability? What did it even do?" And they're like, "Well, it's like their AOE damage." And I go, "Why can I see it?" What in the world is going on? Yeah, so there's been a decent amount of class bugs. That's kind of typical, I would say, with any major patch. Decor duels were a bit in shambles. You could just get out of the arena. There was also
no, typical, bro. This was the worst patch ever. This was absolutely ridiculous. I mean,
from
maybe
class bug perspective.
I guess just from everything. Like this was terrible. I think there were so many bugs and so many problems in this patch. I don't think that's typical to have a 0.5 patch come out and classes are just broken. I mean, it happened. I think it's a new trend that started in War Within. This is not, to my memory, something that does or should happen. But now it seems like every patch, it's just a complete mess when it comes out.
All right, I have a hot take. I feel like this isn't new. I think that Blizzard,
starting when
Shadowlands.
I think this just started in War Within.
I think that
I agree, girl.
This is the worst patch. Like this and the anniversary patch that we had in the War Within was fucking terrible. I believe that this started about Shadowlands though.
I think so we're going a little out of order here, but to talk about some bugs, normally I'm the kind of guy who wants to side with Blizzard and also point out when it's other people's faults. But I actually think some of the poor communication and some of the stuff Blizzard has done almost obfuscates all of the bugs. Like, I think people don't even realize the severity at which some of the bugs happen. So just to start, like, some of the things that happened. So there was apparently a bug where just certain specific types of PCs just crashed repeatedly, right? We talked about that. They basically didn't address it at all or say anything about it. They just, like, slid in a fix. There was sometime between Tuesday night and Thursday night, I think.
I'm not aware of this.
So there was another bug where basically Blizzard said, hey, we're changing this stuff with add-ons. And there was a thing that they changed and they didn't tell any of the add-on devs. It basically is like a really stupid thing. It's essentially the way the add-ons validate fonts. And before, if you include changing a font in an add-on and you don't have that font or it's not valid or whatever, it just defaults to the normal font. Now it no longer does that and it spits out an error and blows up your add-on. And so many add-ons which have been working fine all of a sudden on the patch were just blowing up and no one had any idea why. So that's why on Tuesday, if you like Plater wasn't working, basically every party frame add-on wasn't working. And eventually the add-on devs figured out that Blizzard rolled out this change, and it's literally just one stupid line of code that just, hey, validate all of my fonts before you run the code. Then there was the
issue. Did you hear about that?
Yep. So there was the text-to-speech issue. So what happened there was normally text-to-speech is an accessibility setting that goes through the master sound channel, like your main WoW sound channel, but instead they threw it into the effects channel, which is with all of like the random sound effects. So if you wanted to use text-to-speech for those first couple days, you had to crank your effects up to like max volume, and so you're just hearing all of these sounds that you've never heard before. And dude, I was troubleshooting this, and of course this is how this goes in my life. Just some random idiot is sitting next to me in Silvermoon doing his like dragon mount ability or whatever, and it's just screaming in my ears as I'm trying to troubleshoot the text-to-speech. And it's like, dude, what is this? So there was that problem. There was the problem with, this was base UI, by the way. This had nothing to do with add-ons. There were Lua errors being thrown by private auras in the raid. And so you would get ghost auras that would get stuck on your screen and on your party frames. This one was miserable for me because on Bellerin, okay, there's two different mechanics with light and dark, and you have to know what color you are. Your color can change, and then you have to interact with those mechanics. Well, it's putting up ghost auras of the light and dark heal absorb on my screen. So I just have this random light man on my screen, and I can be dark. And so I'm looking at this icon and I'm thinking that I'm light, and then I just run into an orb and die because of a ghost aura that's on my screen that isn't even on my character. And it's just, and almost none of this, I mean, obviously people figure this stuff out, but like there was no like Blizzard posts like saying, oh, this happened or this is why this. They were just like, I mean, obviously we want them to put out the fires, but like I just think people don't realize to the extent at which this patch was terrible.
This patch has been absolutely terrible. I think that this one, the anniversary patch that we had more within 11.0.5.
I think
are the only ones
any
that are
feature
close.
work correctly. I feel like.
Oh yeah, so you're just reminding me of more things. Didn't they literally have to close housing? Like they had to disable housing when the patch came out?
Did void assaults work?
If you logged out into your house, by the way, if you were one of the people who was like, oh, I love housing, I'm gonna go sleep at my house every night before I log out of my game, your character couldn't log into the game when the servers came up because housing was disabled and your guy was in your house.
Yeah. Keystone Myth, the 3400 achievement was not available right away because of a bug. Void Assaults got disabled for maybe like 24 hours or so. After like I think it was on Friday, I think. So that was a thing. Decor Duels had the bugs where you could use track humanoids to find the seekers or to find the hiders right away, because they somehow let that through QA, and everybody could actually do it even if you weren't a hunter through a special food in the game that allows you to track humanoids. So everybody could just immediately find where all the hiders was, and it was a shit show. People who were Have you played Prop Hunt? I assume you've both played Prop Hunt.
I have a Prop Hunt story actually about bugs, but
okay.
I have played it.
I might hit it here, but basically people were not getting rewards because they were flagged as inactive for hiding too well.
Yep.
Because they were standing still the entire time.
If you hide in Prop Hunt in hide and seek, it tells you you're a hider. If you do not move in Prop Hunt, you get flagged as AFK and you don't get the rewards. That was not what I had to say, but I did notice that as well.
Yep.
Think about that for a second. Think about, you are flagged for being AFK in hide and seek.
Well, you're AFK.
All right, so I have a Decor's Duels story, actually. Okay. I'm interested to know if Squishy knows about this one. So a couple of my friends who I will leave unnamed because, well, let's say they were helping Blizzard find the bugs. They weren't purposefully trying to exploit anything. They were helping troubleshoot the game. First of all, within 2 matches, they figured out how to just run out of bounds infinitely. And so they started the Decor Duel. They jumped out of bounds and then ran all the way to, what's the dungeon? Windrunner's Spire?
Oh my god.
all the way to Windrunner Spire. And so the round ended, and when it reveals everybody at the end,
Yeah.
it gets revealed that he's the last person alive and he's at Windrunner Spire.
Jesus.
And everyone in the thing starts blowing up. Right? So that was the first bug. Then after these people get done, they notice that they're in town and they can mount while moving.
Oh my
And then
God.
within more testing, they learned that they can actually cast everything while moving. So naturally, what you try and do is you go into a dungeon and try that. And it works, and you can cast while moving. And so we figured out there was actually a thing you could do with one of the items in the decor duel, where if you grab it and then exit the decor duel with the item, your character has infinite Spirit Walker's Grace until it dies. And that, I believe, worked in Raid and Mythic Plus for an unknown duration until they fixed that.
Yeah. Did you see the Did you see the ritual site text thing as well? I linked it to Tettles.
What is it?
Hold up.
Let me see.
Basically, so like when you get a new renown reward, there's renown rewards for ritual sites. Just go to the tweet there. One of the things was the first thing you need to know when investigating a ritual site is that with so much magic in the air that while in combat, regeneration orbs will manifest, healing you for 15% of your health.
Heath.
Tettles?
This says Heath.
Oh, sorry, this is Heath. I didn't even realize. But like, they just hotfixed it today. But like, what the fuck is this?
This doesn't even say
The
Heath.
first thing you need to know.
It's a fucking tool. What? Oh, dude, what in the fuck am I reading?
I mean, very clearly this reads as a tooltip that's supposed to tell you about a buff that's giving you orbs that spawn, except for either not written by an English speaker or AI generated.
I don't even think this is AI generated.
It's definitely not AI generated. They said Heath.
you know what this is? It's like when you need to make a book report on something, but you haven't read the book, so you just try to expand what you know about it.
Yep.
By adding a bunch of random quantifiers. So instead of just being like, there's regeneration orbs that heal you, it's like, well, the first thing you need to know is that there are these green, really large orbs in the area that are really potent and bright, and just keep adding descriptors that
They will
don't matter.
manifest. And whenever they manifest, they will heal you for 15% of your Heath.
Of your Heath.
Yes.
They're regenerating, healing you for your health.
Yeah. Dude, all of these were this bad. Like, if you scroll down, they just fixed all of them today. They were all pretty bad.
Oh, wow. There's a lot of.
Yeah, every single one for the Renown was bad. Like, go to the Renown 6 one.
Our continued work at ritual sites has caused more valuables to be abandoned. You will find additional treasures and spoils around ritual sites. You can now find additional small treasures.
I mean, go to the Renown 6 one. That one's a little weird, I think. The little creatures often fare poorly when they venture into sites steeped in magic. Seek out Sergeant Hornet. And you know what this sounds like? It
What
sounds
the
like
fuck
quest
is a
text.
steeped?
Yeah, it almost because you're right in that it sounds just like it's not the right text that should go there.
You know what
I'm
it sounds
saying?
like, actually? The world quest text. You know when you enter a world quest, it plays a voice line?
Yes.
You know, the Brutosaur one that Tettles always says. What is it? You know, the Brutosaurs have been, I don't remember.
Oh, dude, I don't remember the Zandalor one. I mean, it's
Send them into a panic. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so everybody was speaking out about this. I mean, even I would say the biggest Blizzard shills were pretty much being like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I know I saw a lot of people commenting on this, that Blizzard released an apology. Or maybe acknowledging the situation, I should say.
Well, first, I think we should talk about the bonus roll situation and what exactly happened.
You want to do that? Okay.
So essentially,
that.
The whole point of the bonus roll system was that it was random, but it's bad luck protection. Once you get an item, it crosses it off the list, and then you can't get that item anymore. Well, apparently they rolled it out such that it just doesn't cross things off the list. And so people were using their bonus rolls, getting items, but the items weren't being crossed off, right? And so if you get a crappy item, you could potentially get a crappy item again as your second bonus roll, and you don't have that crossed off your list in the future. So it's not even like Blizzard can retroactively do stuff about it, right? And so then I was like, well, I'm glad that I didn't spend my bonus rolls and waste them, right? Because I could have, gotten messed up and I could have wasted my bonus rolls. So then Blizzard goes back. Then they give the bonus rolls back to anybody who bonus rolled anything, and they get to keep the item. So apparently the correct play was not to wait for the bug to be fixed, but instead run into the dungeon and mash your bonus rolls and collect your free items and have your bonus rolls refunded.
Yeah, I mean, clearly the correct fix is to retroactively be able to apply bad luck protection to the rolls that were used prior to the BLP being added, and then anybody who ended up getting a duplicate, they would get a bonus roll refunded. That is the correct fix. Right now, how it is set up is that Blizzard basically in a blue post said that they couldn't fix it correctly. Right. So their best course of action, instead of the players that got duplicates just saying to get fucked, is that they're going to try to make everybody whole, where those players get the bonus rolls back. Which some people like Growl, or there are going to be people who are getting an edge over other players. I think with what has gone on here, either the players who didn't spend their bonus rolls early would have been getting an edge over the players who used them and now don't have them on the bad luck protection. So because it's not just an issue of players who got duplicates, it's anybody who used a bonus roll in a dungeon or on a raid boss. It could not have been put on the bad luck protection. So future rolls could have also have incurred a duplicate. So I mean, now the players who use the bad luck protection rolls or use their bonus rolls early have an edge over all of the other players who didn't use them, which it feels a little bit weird, but I do think this is maybe the correct solution, but I think that the correct fix was not this. I think the correct fix is to retroactively apply BLP to everything.
I think if they don't have the information, they don't have the information.
Yeah.
That's never coming back. Now, I think there is another fix, which they were able to determine who rolled before the fix and who rolled after the fix. Which means the best fix in my mind was to give bonus rolls back to those who got bugged ones, which I think is completely fair. But those who did not roll get 2 bugged rolls, aka no knockout list. Or not 2. Sorry, but
you think they have the technology accurate. To do that?
That's annoyingly accurately fair as to what the most fair
that is the most fair. Obviously, it's probably a lot of work because you're now having non-duplicate or duplicate bonus rolls getting into the system. And there's a whole UI. So, is it realistic? No. I don't think that's realistic, and I don't think Blizzard would actually ever do that because you have a separate system and stuff like that. But, if we're talking about the most fair solution, I do think that it is the people who spent get non-dupe rolls, and the people who didn't spend get dupe rolls. Because that equalizes everybody.
I think there's a game problem where they can't just make dupe rolls, right?
Correct. You would need a new currency. It would be confusing. Where does that go in the UI? It's not an easy fix. There's a reason they didn't choose that.
What was the time frame that they identified? Do you know?
Did
they say the time?
They said the time. Because I want to know, they didn't say anything about this for 3 days. Right? Yes. When Growl said, we knew about it, and all of us, or at least I was waiting to not roll because there was I didn't want to roll early.
Yeah.
They just didn't say anything, which was super weird.
So I think the correct situation here, see this time, 8 p.m. on Wednesday, there is no reason that bonus rolls should not or what was it? I thought it was Wednesday.
It was Wednesday. You're right.
There's no reason that the bonus rolls or something should not have been locked down or communicated before then. I'm pretty sure people knew immediately that day. I was reading in Twitch chat, right? Should have. How can they not roll out a fix to stop the bonus roll window from just popping up while they fix this? How did they allow so many bonus rolls to get used in this time frame and lock? You know what I'm saying? They should have locked it down instantaneously when they identified that there's a problem.
They were probably trying to fix They were probably trying to fix the people fucking disconnecting, right?
I guess that's probably the answer, right? You're actually absolutely right.
They were busy.
There was just so many fires to put out that this was, and you know how much people care about myth track loot and all this fairness bullshit that I've been whining about the whole expansion, right? The fact that they let this go and they allowed this imbalance to happen just shows how everything was on fire at that time, and it took them so long to fix this issue to the point where they couldn't even stop the system and stop the bleeding.
Is it kind of sad to be like, this is kind of what I expect now? I mean, the fact that Blizzard apologized after this was mind-boggling to me. Because I feel like this is actually kind of what I expect out of World of Warcraft patches nowadays.
I will say, like, so the first duplicate was reported that Tuesday night at 6:30 Pacific time. That's when I saw it. It made its way to Reddit. That's when I saw it.
Yeah.
One is not, like any evidence of a chain though, right? Because people maybe they don't understand how it works. They already had an item and they got the same one for a roll, not knowing that it had to be rolled, right? Like we talked about that. That's fine. But then the reports started rolling in over the next couple hours. I'm like, something's wrong, which is when I made a post about it, because there is a clear pattern here. It's not related to Leech. It's not tertiary. It's like there's something wrong here. And so
right. How was it not locked down on Tuesday night?
And then Tuesday went all day Wednesday all day with silence. Everyone was like, is bonus rolls fixed? Are bonus rolls fixed? Nobody knows. Nobody even knew if they were broken officially in the first place because Blizzard didn't say anything. They hid it on their support site in like a FAQ of like, my bonus roll reported a duplicate item. And you click on that and says, yeah, we're investigating reports. They didn't even make a blue post on it.
It goes back to what Tettles said, and it's the sad reality of this is sort of what you're coming to expect. And I think the big part of it is, so I threw this in the show notes next to the apology right below it. This literally happened in the War Within, where there was a completely terribly buggy 0.5 patch, and Ian came out and he's like, yeah, I mean, it's verbatim, almost the same words. It's not the experience our players are expecting or deserve when they log on patch day. Like that's not describing this patch. That was an apology from last expansion. And again, I want to take Blizzard at face value and say, okay, they're saying these things or they're doing these things, but boy, does it come off as hollow when they do this 2 expansions in a row, or almost 2 patches in a row.
The War Within Anniversary patch was historically bad too, where they introduced a new bug where spamming guild achievements would make your game lag. There were vault duplicates. Outlaw Rogue had infinite combo points. LE Shamans were doing 30% more damage than everybody else. Old classes didn't get their changes merged in. There was the insane server desync. While we had lag this time, there was I remember there was a clip of Silken Court where everybody's guild got hit by the circles in the intermission and just got stuck in the spikes, and it wasn't even on top of them. Like, there was insane server desync. Like, that anniversary patch was bad, and they said an apology, and then the fact that they have an apology for this as well, I'm with you. It feels very hollow, but to me, this is kind of what I expect now with whenever I'm playing World of Warcraft, which is sad. Like, it's not what we should expect, but to me, the patch was in shambles, but I feel like 0.5 patches have been in shambles for a very long time, or at least, you never really know what you're going to kind of get with a new patch.
This to me wasn't even necessarily an apology. The bonus roll explanation, did you show the bonus roll? Did we talk about that? I don't think we did.
I had
like where they explained why the bonus rolls, like that explanation was, in my opinion, really good. It explained what went wrong, how things went wrong, and this is detailed. This makes a lot of sense. And I think a lot of people were like, yeah, that makes sense. It still sucks that it happened, but nobody's perfect. And I think, do you guys agree with that in terms of this post?
I mean, I think it depends on the situation, right? I think if this was... Well, I'm saying that I think if this was the only problem that came out of this patch was the bonus rolls, then I would be like, yeah, this is an acceptable reasoning and apology, right? But how can they say, oh, we have a very detailed explanation for why this went wrong? Meanwhile, I just see Demon Hunters, flying around using Collapsing Star, while moving, and Decor Hunt is running out of bounds, and my entire raid is crashing in the raid. That's not the explanation, right? They can pick out any one specific issue and write this post about it, but ultimately it's a foundational issue that we're having. It's a fundamental problem with what's going on in the patches. It's not, we put a tilde here instead of a colon. Like, no, this is like the problem is that it didn't get caught or tested.
I just don't understand how you say tested. I just don't understand how the upper management of Blizzard allows patches like this to ship. Like, it's baffling.
Yep. I mean, even mainstream kind of caught on to how upset people were and that kind of thing. But like that apology or non-apology didn't really fly with a lot of the player base. People didn't really like it. It wasn't really an apology, and some people were calling it AI. The first statement was super weird and just felt like some like go back to that statement real quick.
I have it pulled up here.
What was it? Was go to the top. The 12.05 patch patch launch was not up to our standards, and we know this disrupted your time and caused justified frustration. That sounds
that doesn't
weird.
feel AI generated to me. I don't know.
I just don't know any it sounds like really corporate speak, not like you're talking to players.
I mean, to use the word disrupted as a verb for time doesn't really make sense, right? Like, what are you, the fucking bronze dragon? What are you disrupting time? Like, that's not like you can waste it, right? You can spend it, you can make it feel bad, but you don't disrupt it. I think that's what
bronze dragon is an insane fucking line, by the way.
I'm glad you agree with that, but like, it's just it doesn't feel real. And I think that's what a lot of people caught on with is just like, the patch launch was not up to our standards. There's not even like the we will do better at the end, I guess, but like, we're sorry that, this patch was not up to our standards and contained lots of things that caused you frustration. It just very much does not vibe.
I guess the way I would describe it is it doesn't feel like this is the guy who was in charge who made a mistake, acknowledging his mistake and apologizing for it. It almost seems like it's coming from the beast. It's just like World of Warcraft as an entity posted this tweet, and it doesn't feel heartfelt. It doesn't feel like this is how a person thinks. It's just like so corporate in a way.
Yeah.
I think it really depends on how much social cred they have, right? Like, I think that
that's a part. Yeah.
If they have just come off of like a few really good patches in a row and the game is like really rocking and everybody's happy with everything, I think that you could kind of vibe with this. And it's kind of like whenever they apologize for the Covenant shit in the middle of Shadowlands, it's like, well, I'm glad that you're apologizing. I'm still mad. This expansion sucked, right? Like, it's like, it kind of feels like the same thing where it's just like, well, if you didn't have a couple of patches that were bad in a row, like Turbo Boost, this didn't get a ton of traction. I remember when Turbo Boost came out the second time in War Within, you could get unlimited amounts of the Turbo Boost currency at the very beginning of the week. And there were some people that I knew from Infinity that had like 4 pieces of gear on day one. Like, ridiculous. And then there was like, I don't know. It's always something now. It feels like
we're
always
experiencing
something.
the boom and bust cycle of WoW, where last week, Blizzard is doing all these great things. Look at how great the game is going to be, guys. And then the patch comes out, and then we're like, oh no, what is this?
Yeah, it's sad to see that this happened for this patch. It hasn't stopped me from having too much fun.
Oh my god!
Like
a new announcement. Blizzard is now releasing a new Brutosaur mount in the in-game shop, and it offers auctions and mail.
Dude, Incredible. That would be so funny. As soon as you pulled that up on your screen and I saw the title flash, like the first 1 second of my conscious thought was like, bro, there ain't no fucking way.
I mean, it didn't help. There was the other thing that I guess is not on the show notes that I'm going to bring up, is they increased sub prices for certain regions.
Oh.
Yes,
Did you see
I
that?
saw that all over Twitter. Yeah, apparently it was like Brazil and maybe some South American countries.
It was Turkey, I think, had theirs like increased by like 2x or something.
The UK, Kazakhstan, Georgia, Turkey.
Yeah.
Which, a bunch of people like, release the buggiest patch ever, increase sub prices. And it's like, I see that. Yeah, that's not a great look.
Yeah, that's one that I just don't know enough about. Because usually it's the opposite. Usually it's, hey, they want to make the sub prices cheaper in some areas because otherwise people wouldn't play it. So I have no idea what the sub rates are in all the different countries. Well, I guess you have a great article on wowhead.com that breaks it down.
I heard that this turkey change is actually really big. I think somebody was saying that I think they're going to be paying like 2x the previous amount or something.
Yeah. I mean, like,
because it's changing from the lira to the euro. I think is what happened with it.
Sense. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Again, it's just so not great timing to be doing this right as the buggiest patch is dropping. But again, since the War Within, we've just every single patch feels like it's really buggy on release. I mean, I do agree with you that it's not impacting me too much, right? Like I had fun running around like those guys trying to troubleshoot what exactly caused the bugs and whatever. And I still had fun hanging out with my friends in Raid, but it feels bad. And also, like, I do care about a lot of people's perception about WoW. I want lots more people playing WoW and to have fun in WoW. And having bad patches is really, really bad for the average tourist player, right? Who doesn't play that much. But hey, there's a new patch comes out. Let me check. Oh, I love watching Prop Hunt on YouTube Shorts. Let me see what the WoW one is. And then you just go in and people are flying out of bounds and you're getting kicked for being AFK and all this nonsense. And I feel like it's bad for the health of the community, the player base, when these patches roll out really, really bad. But yeah, I mean, it hasn't, been that negative for me personally. But it sucks. Yeah. Actually, it made Raid really, really suck. So maybe I take that back. I've been having fun.
It was definitely frustrating. It was definitely frustrating, especially we're working on Lura, but we're having a fucking good time on Lura. I don't know how, but like it's so stupid that fight, man.
I like these raid bosses. I think it might just be a symptom of me not healing anymore. But I'm even healing on our alt raid. I've been having fun in the raid. I don't really have problems with many of the bosses. I'm looking forward to Lura. I think that should be a fun fight.
Lura is a great boss that is plagued with one person fucks up, the raid dies, times like 5 different mechanics that do that.
Yeah, which is never anybody's favorite, but at the same time, like, if you want to have a super mega hard fight that takes 400 pulls, how else do you do it if you're not wiping the raid?
Mm-hmm. Okay, while the development team has been busy putting out fires, the legal team has been busy striking down Turtle WoW and getting active with it.
Oh, shit. Where
Turtle WoW are now closing their servers. Growl, you added this to the show notes. I feel like I always see insane takes whenever it's in regards to private servers.
Yeah, so this is one where I don't think a lot of like I think you guys don't pay attention too much to this, but this has actually been a pretty big like overall WoW, right? Like people, all of the people who play and focus on WoW have been seeing this about private servers again. And while obviously it's a thing that people play, and I like whatever, that it's never going to exist forever and it's not sustainable. I actually kind of have a take that I want to throw out into the void now that this happened. Is, boy, does this feel a lot like when Nostalrius got shut down. And I think back to, was it 2018 or 2019 when Nostalrius got shut down?
I think it had to be 2018, right?
In the world of people who play Classic, which when that happened, it was, oh, this is terrible. We hate Blizzard. This is the end of the world. And that came right behind the announcement of
There's a
Classic,
Wikipedia article about Nostalrius? What the fuck?
So Nostalrius getting shut down came right before Blizzard basically announced that they were doing Classic. And I think that we also got a hint over Classic Plus in that WoW Direct thing for the year. I think this is almost definitely setting the stage for Blizzard is going to do a Classic Plus, and that it's probably going to be ready sooner than we think if we're alongside that same timeline. Even though they haven't talked about it, I mean, I almost fully expect that it's going to be announced at BlizzCon and that it's going to come out shortly after BlizzCon. Like, I don't think it's going to be that delayed. And there's also a lot of talks about MoP Classic. So my prediction actually is that I think Classic Plus might come out as soon as MoP runs out. I think we're not going to see WoD. I think Mop Classic is going to end. I think they're going to migrate people's Mop Classic characters into retail with all of their transmogs and achievements, and I think there's going to be a huge shitstorm over that. And then I think Classic Plus is going to come out after Mop. So that's my Nostradamus waffle cat tinfoil hat prediction about this whole Turtle WoW shutting down thing.
I think that you're probably right. Like, the logic is sound.
I've seen the pieces. The pieces. They've all conjured up, and this is what I foresee coming. And if there's any sort of secret testing or anybody at Blizzard that's listening, and now that I've put together all the pieces, please tell me the information and let me in and do that.
Dude, I want to try Classic Plus when it comes out. I'm interested in seeing what are they going to be doing with it. The Turtle WoW stuff. I mean, I feel like I see the most weird tribalism on both sides. Like, for the people who are playing a private server, like, you're playing a private server that's infringing on Blizzard's intellectual property, you should be of knowledge that it can be shut down at any time. Like, it just is what it is. It's unfortunate. Like, at the same time, you were playing a private server. For the people who are defending Blizzard, I don't know why you're defending Blizzard. Yeah, they're going to do whatever they're going to do. They're going to have to protect their IP. Like, it just is what it is, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a silly issue where, like, Blizzard doesn't need any help and we don't need to shit talk Turtle WoW, but at the same time, like, come on, you should know better if you're playing on a private server that this is going to happen.
I see both. It's like it's the most insane tribalism on both sides. Like, I'm a consumer of a World of Warcraft product. I don't work for fucking Blizzard. Like,
yeah. All right, we gotta go.
All right, cool stuff
Anything
we've
else?
seen this week. I think we've kind of hashed out all the stuff with 12.0.5. Growl's got an interesting tweet from former president of Blizzard Entertainment, Mike Ybarra, who is well known for things such as leading World of Warcraft through the Shadowlands expansion, with great things such as target capping, and all of my mobility buttons are being put on cooldown, and firing the QA team that worked on World of Warcraft. And he has this electric tweet that says, "Unfortunate, World of Warcraft has to reset the commitment, and it has to be clear and firm, otherwise it will continue to decline." In regards to a GameSpot tweet, which says, "World of Warcraft's latest patch is one giant list of bugs and issues, and players are fed up."
Yeah, so Mike Ybarra, he's known for controversial Twitter takes, especially controversial to the WoW scene. He posted, "WoW has to reset, and the commitment has to be clear and firm, or it will continue to decline." And he just immediately gets jumped on by basically everybody in the WoW community. Funny enough, he actually gets one guide by somebody in the comments where he responds to, the guy said, "What specific reset did you advocate for?" And I just find this interesting because, again, this guy used to be in charge, but this guy basically says that he was advocating for WoW 2. Which is something that is like a crazy thing to think about and a crazy take, but that's, I think, a thought that almost every WoW player has thought about over their time playing is, what if there was a reset and what if we just started over and did WoW 2? What would that look like? And so for him to go in the Twitter comments of this shitstorm and say that he wanted WoW 2, I just thought this was fucking crazy.
Dude,
I'm like, this is such a good Twitter thread if you're bored and want some drama.
I thought it is an insane Twitter thread. He is getting fucking dunked on, basically.
I mean, I don't have the thing, but there's apparently him saying that, or like while he was leading it, they fired like 2,000 QA workers.
Yeah, it's right here.
During his time as... Oh, okay.
Weren't you the one that did the 1,900 layoffs right before Christmas to mainly their Q&A, or was I mistaken?
Yeah.
Crazy, actually. I didn't even mean for this to connect to the whole podcast, but crazy for Tettles to talk about how this has been going on and it's been bad since Shadowlands. And then to talk about all the QA people that got fired. Because I remember that when there was like everyone was pretty upset about that at the time. And that was like literally like after Christmas or like on Christmas or something ridiculous. And so maybe we are seeing the long felt repercussions of that happening.
I will say as well, like, people love to blame like QA people for the quality that we are getting with World of Warcraft, and I don't think it's the people who are working on QA at World of Warcraft. I think it is the upper management at WoW that is making the decisions to drive the game. That is the reason that we are getting the quality that we are getting. Like that's something that like needs to be said. Like that.
Yeah, I'm not.
It's not going to be like this low level QA person.
I'm not that understanding of the inner workings there, but by definition, as upper management, you have to take responsibility.
Correct.
Right? That
Yes.
is your job, is to oversee it. So whether or not there are competent QA people, and if they're doing their job or blah 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 blah, right? No matter what, if there's a person who's in charge of those people, right? Like, you know, to be a raid leader and then be like, well, all my raiders are dog shit. That's why my guild's dog shit. It's like, well, then why are they? You know what I mean? Like,
You're the raid leader.
You didn't just spawn into this guild, like you created this guild. So yeah, I think by definition, you definitely can't blame, and we're not trying to blame, the tester guys for being lazy. That is not the message here.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that it's disappointing, let's say, that this is what we have gotten out of Blizzard. Hopefully they're better in the future. I think it's probably one of the better is kind of the only thing I've left on with that.
I mean, hopefully 1207's better. We haven't seen it. I mean, it's probably going to the PTR soon, but they can't go back and change this.
The mini raid.
The only thing they could do is
imagine the mini raid is just unplayable or something.
Oh my god!
What if they do WoW 2?
I'm in.
That'd be sick. I'm in.
What if
WoW
after
2.
the trilogy, WoW 2?
I was out, but now I'm back. Oh shit!
Scrap the Last Titan. Just who even cares about the trilogy? Just WoW 2.
Oh god! All right, we got some Q&A this week as well. First question from Andy says, "Yo, bench WoW or Potty C, whichever one of you has the more handsome hosts and needs to have a good yapping session about how starved for crests we are at the moment. It was great getting the bonus rolls this reset, but I'm weeks away from being able to get all of it above hero track item level." Yeah, so something that we talked about was the people getting 2 additional bonus rolls, but most people are crest limited anyways, so even though you got the 2 additional bonus rolls, a lot of people weren't able to actually spend them on anything.
Yeah, that was a funny realization that I had where patch day came. I realized that I had not done my Void Core thing, and I needed to go do dungeons to even unlock my bonus rolls, and I thought to myself, oh no, I'm trolling. But then I realized that I couldn't upgrade anything that I bonus rolled in M+ anyway, because it's like I don't have the crests. And so it has created this weird situation with crests. Personally, I don't mind it so much. I guess I'm the less handsome on the pod, but I do like that if there's some decision with what I do with my crests, right? Oh, do I upgrade my vault? Oh, do I craft an item? Oh, do I upgrade my stuff that I got from raid? I don't necessarily think just because you have something myth 1 of 6 or hero 1 of 6 that it should immediately teleport up to 6 of 6. Like, then that would kind of defeat the purpose of the crest. So yeah, it feels like we're crest starved because they've massively increased the amount of myth items we get, but not the crests. But I think that's okay for progression. I don't think that's something that I would complain about.
I think it's actually fine. We didn't talk about this, but the one thing I want to mention is there's still more upgrades coming. We get the new weapon upgrade and trinket upgrades in 3 weeks. Yep. And by the way, it's time gated.
Yep, of course.
For weeks, we're like, when are we getting the weapon thing? I don't know. It's time gated. It's 4 weeks. So this last week was 1. This coming week, by the time we're watching this, is week 2. So 2 weeks later, you're gonna get those weapon upgrades. And like, there's still the weekly power coming in. I don't think crests are gonna be capped until the 0.7 patch, or uncapped until the 0.7 patch.
I don't mind.
Okay.
I don't mind like the weapon stuff being time gated. It was more just like nobody knew what was happening. And it was like, wait a second, my weapon's time gated.
But like that's gonna be a really pretty big power spike. I think uncapped. How would you feel if they never uncapped crests this season?
Fine. I think uncapped crests.
I mean, eventually
feels like
it just eventually. It's just effectively uncapped, right? Like you just earn, isn't that true?
I agree with you. And at that point, I think it's fine. But like, I think it's fine just kind of slow rolling it. Like, I don't see a reason that it can't just be slow rolled until the end of time.
I never saw the purpose of uncapping crests because I mean usually when they do that, either you could have upgraded all of your gear or you're very, very, very close to that. And I think that's sort of the point anyway, is they like, oh, well, maybe you really messed up with your crest and then they'll uncap it to let you fix it. But most people care way too much about their character to do that.
Because I would argue that, like, not uncapping crests almost feels better, because when they uncap crests, everybody just spams M plus for, like, 12 hours, finishes their crest and says, I'm burnt out, I'm done, I did all my Mythic Plus, I'm done. And then you stop playing. Is that, like, a bad thing?
Are you saying from day one?
No, like the week that they uncap crests, people usually just spam the fuck out of it and upgrade the rest of their gear. And then they're done. And there's two parts. One, that finishes people off for the season, so they usually quit. And part two, I feel like people burn out doing that.
Blizzard might view that as a participation shot in the arm, though.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I like if you need the boost now, sure, but I feel like it definitely speeds up the decline after.
I agree with that. I don't know. I'm not in on the uncapped crest. I've never really. I think it always has felt like really bad for the exact reasons you identified. Okay, next question. We have from Joe Hannon. He says, greetings. Do you think they made Mythic Plus easier this season to purposely increase their participation numbers so they can use that as a metric to say that no add-ons was a success for a bigger player number?
Come on. It's somebody took my tinfoil hat already. I had it on for a total of 12 minutes and the commenters have already taken it. I think that the add-on thing has been blown way out of proportion, and now it's just like, yeah, I don't know. I think a majority of players in World of Warcraft actually would prefer no add-ons. I just think that the in-game tools aren't good enough, and most people know that they won't be able to accomplish that goal, and that's generally what most people are against. I don't think there's a huge subsection of people that actually like, oh, I super love add-ons, and I love having 18 different menus in my game and how to do all these things and having to look up guides. They like the customization, but if you could have the customization in the base game and do all the things that most of the things that you wanted, I think that would be the better end goal for almost everybody.
I think a good way of describing it is like, I hate add-ons, but the thing I hate more than add-ons is feeling like I'm at a competitive disadvantage because I don't have add-ons, right?
Yeah.
Like, yes. If there was no workarounds and there was no way that somebody could get like a competitive edge over me, it would be a much better system. But as it turns out, I'm downloading X-Win tools and EX Boss and having this TTS lady in my ear saying defensive. And it's just like, wow, this is OP. I'm going to download this add-on. Ugh, great.
Bro, that thing is the worst. So the X-Win Boss thing or whatever is basically just some Chinese bigwig / add-on that has a lot of the tools that people used to use in Mythic Plus, namely like sound alerts when you're targeted by stuff or when mechanics happening. The problem is it's English translated, but the translations for the sounds don't make any sense. And so you turn it on and you get so confused when you're doing bosses and it just says targeted, and then it really means AoE damage, or it's just like soak, and it really like it basically just says random words for mechanics, and holy shit does it throw me off. And then I'm watching Tettles stream and some people are putting in the channel point text to speech, and I don't even know if it's the chat or if it's the X-Win tools, or
that
something
fries the fuck out of me when they go defensive, and I'm just like sitting there looking at the boss. I'm like, the fuck is this thing saying defensive for?
Yeah.
It's incredible. Oh my god.
Yeah, that add-on is OP. They recently added a tab where it has trash alerts too. It doesn't work currently. If somehow they figure out a way to get that working, that shit is the most broken add-on I've ever seen.
It'll get fixed.
Yeah.
It's gonna fly too close to the sun.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, but like with add-ons in general though, I know we're getting off topic here. I've been thinking about it. There would definitely be computational stuff this tier that would have been made if it wasn't for computational add-ons being gone.
Like what?
Would you agree with that? The most notable one would be Bellerin. Because of colors.
I think
who kicks next on the ads, for example? Because you would be able to computationally solve that.
kicks would have got automated. I also think soaks and immunes probably would have
Yep.
gotten figured out.
Who is clearing?
Healer dispels, literally, they did make a weak aura for it. Weak auras
Yeah.
got resurrected from the dead to show up for paladins.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't describe this raid as add-on heavy or like blemished by add-ons, but I think that people definitely would have done more if they could.
We definitely would have seen computational add-ons on Bellerin, almost certainly, because of the colors. Because it's impossible to know. Like you would be assigned to soak a quadrant at the end of intermission or something, that kind of thing. We might have seen it a little bit on Lura for phase 2. If we didn't have safe strats, right now everybody's kind of meta, but at some point on Lura, if you have more than 5 melee, you might end up having to have some weird shenanigans go on. But
Yeah.
Crazy take. Would Bellerin have been better with assignments? Because
No.
then then it assigns you to be like, oh, okay, you're light, so you can you can solve things on the fly, and so you don't need immunities. Because that's essentially what the complaint of the fight is, right? Is that
Yes.
you have no time to respond to anything, so you just use immunities to brute force all the mechanics. But if it auto assigned and told you what to do all the time, then you could do the mechanics as just soaking the balls, not as running it through them with turtle. I'm memeing before people get mad, but
the funny thing is, I
interesting
actually think you are correct in this case because the orbs do damage.
right.
Because, like, to an extent, because if the orb, like let's say Bellerin orbs did 0 damage. If you were the correct color, you take 0 damage from a correct color orb. The only penalty was for soaking the wrong color orb. I actually think you could do the fight on the fly. The problem is you take so much damage from soaking the correct color orbs that you can only take 2 to 3 for DPS, or tank with cooldown can take a lot more. But like, if everybody was assigned a section on the line like Farak, and you just kind of like mass cleared as a raid, and you got assigned middle left or whatever, and you take a couple orbs there, that I actually think that would solve the problem of immunities. The problem is that's completely unreasonable to set it up.
It's just a different problem.
Yeah. You're moving the problem, but that's because, as we've discussed, Bellerin was absolutely not supposed to be the penultimate boss, and became the penultimate boss. So,
All right, last question, Q&A from Kenneth. He says, "Hey Bench, I liked your last episode endorsing the 3,400 and 1% additions to Mythic Plus. What are your thoughts on the other community ideas about having the 1/0.1% titles be per spec? I know it may sound like a lot of work on Blizzard's end, but I see the community becoming more obsessed with inviting meta specializations only as the key gets higher. Not necessarily just title range, but -2 or -3 keystone levels. I've heard the arguments about why this would be a pointless implementation, but honestly, I think that would be healthy for the community to follow Blizzard's idea that you should play what you enjoy." Okay, I'll take a crack at this one first. I think that it is, you kind of tiptoe around it with the concept of like, I've heard this would be a pointless implementation. I don't think it's necessarily a pointless implementation, but like, what changes the moment that you make it spec specific as opposed to just game wide? Well, the people who are playing meta specs are now more likely to play other meta specializations, and the people who are playing off meta specs want to then already do what they're previously doing, which is fill themselves in a composition where they're the only off meta spec in a group with 4 other meta specializations, where I just don't think that gameplay really makes sense. I do agree, though, that there is something to be said about players becoming more obsessed with inviting meta specializations, but I think that's more or less just kind of the game that we play. That's kind of the issue of LFG just as a whole, where LFG is very relentless and you don't know what you're getting, you don't know the skill of the players, and so you're gonna invite the person that's on a more appealing class. That's just how it works.
Yeah, so there's some problems there. The biggest one being that what top X% on different specs means changes wildly, right?
Yes.
So for example, this season, if you are in the top 0.1% of DHs, that's significant. Like, you're basically, it's like impossible, right, to be that high up in Devours. You have to be like doing some of the highest keys in the world, basically. Whereas being in the 0.1% of a class that's not popular at all, that's like almost 2 completely different achievements, right? And it waters down the meaning of what it is to the point where you could have it on the most competitive spec on the most competitive season and the hardest thing ever,
yes,
and be in there, and it means the same as somebody who like did 17s on a warlock, right? And I think that it just changes the meaning of the achievement a lot to the point where I just don't like I don't think it would be a great change. I think it's possible that they could add something additional, right? Like some sort of other bonus to
like a
recognize
class
that you're high
reward?
up in your class. Yeah, and I think that's more fitting for around the like it's like a set goal rather than a 1% thing. Like I think the combination of percent based and spec, I don't really like I think that has a lot of negative effects, right? And also I would rebut the idea that it somehow promotes diversity or any of that. I would say that you're still not going to get invited. Nobody cares about your title. Like, I'm not going to sit here and invite you as an off meta spec because all of a sudden you can get title. Like, I'm still just going to invite the same meta specs. It might encourage people to play more off meta specs, but then you're almost making the problem worse, right? Now there's more people who are like, oh, I love Shaman and I'm going to try really hard in Shaman. And now you have even more competition in an already very competitive role of DPS.
Well, I mean, those people are more incentivized now to play together for exactly the reason that you said, right? The people that are playing the Devoured Demon Hunter, the people that are playing the Unholy DK, are more incentivized then to group up with one another because and actually almost like shut out the people who are like not on their class just because of how the title would work. Really weird.
So the thing that I want to say is, first of all, the problem is clearly Aug Evoker and Resilient Keys, right, Kral?
Yep.
No, but in reality, I tend to agree. Like this is the common argument. Like that's what we think. But if they gave it a try, I'd like to see what happens for a season if it's just bad, then just revert. Like, I don't think people are going to game the system no matter what it is, right? Like in the current system, the gaming of the system is building the meta comp. In the reverted system or the change system, it's just play the meta comp, and swap in the spec that you want. People are always going to play the system, like no matter what the system is. So I don't see a reason that they couldn't try it. I do think it'd be a lot more work and a lot more difficult to find what the 1% is, and from a user perspective, that's going to be a lot harder. For like, oh, the Unholy DK1 is 3,600 for top 1%, but if I play Feral Druid, it's 3,200, and if I play Devourer, it's like 37, and it's just a lot of different numbers and a lot of different things. I think it's like from an ease perspective, it's just easiest to be like 1% is looking to be 3,800. Boom, done. Not opposed to the other, but the other thing I want to say is, this is just complete tangential, but it's on par for me. Did you see what they announced at Final Fantasy? Their Final Fantasy Con this weekend at the Anaheim Convention Center? It's really interesting.
Didn't they announce an expansion come out or something?
They announced the Saga, that whole thing. But the main thing that I want to talk about is in Final Fantasy, you can swap jobs on the fly. And they announced that gear is shared between all your jobs or your classes or your specs. Your highest eye level will stay.
So when he says jobs, for people who don't play Final Fantasy, that's like your class, right? A job would
that
be
is
like,
your class.
A job is mage.
Spec.
A job is warrior. A job is
yes.
demon hunter, right? So in Final Fantasy, you can essentially have one character that can be a demon hunter and a mage at the same time. You just, but they're two completely different like progression paths, right? Or
correct.
Something. And now they're saying that you just have you are almost like classless and not classless and gearless, but like that is shared throughout everything. Like you can just decide I'm a fully geared mage, but I really want to tank now and play warrior, and then you can just press the button and
you just swap over.
Yep.
Yeah, like I don't know how I feel about that. If that would ever be a thing that comes to WoW, but like that would definitely ease a lot of people's concerns with like meta stuff, right? Because you just go, oh, this is meta, I'm gonna now play that, right? Like,
oh, it's weird that you say that about meta, because my first thought was the conversation that we had that people didn't like about the idea of alt friendliness versus having meaningful character progression in your main. And that's actually really interesting to think about, because then you have infinite alt friendliness and you could have infinite character progression too, right? With that system, you could have like a really long, really grindy, really meaningful gear progression, but anytime you wanted to play any other spec or class, you can just immediately play that.
Wow. Yeah.
That was my first thought when I heard that.
That's what I mean. Like
It's a really interesting way to handle the gear progression versus alt friendliness dilemma that we were talking about.
Yeah.
To be clear, I'm not the biggest, like, I don't play Final Fantasy. This is what I saw across social media and some people who, like my friends who play it. My understanding is you still have to level the class or the job in Final Fantasy, but once you are the level, it does take the highest. That is my understanding of the system. But it was very interesting to hear that discussion because that's what sparked in my memory of meta, is because my thought was like, if you could be whatever you wanted to be, you could play a tank, you could play a healer, and everything saves to that same character.
I feel like most people who play off meta want to. I think there is a subsection of people that play a class that's less good and would love to play a better class and just switch over, but don't have the time or can or whatever. But I also think there's a huge chunk of people who play the off meta spec because they like that spec or they want, you know what I mean? So I think it changes some of the problem, but not. I wouldn't say it tackles the bulk of it. But it is an interesting thought on meta too.
Yeah, I found the quote. It's in 8.0, jobs will still exist, and you'll still have to level them separately, but now players will be able to reflect their highest item level to do other jobs. This won't include stat boosts awarded by materia, whatever that is. But it seems like they're doing a respect players' time thing, very similar to what WoW had a while back.
Building off this tangent, what's up with the Final Fantasy logs? Have you guys seen this?
No.
I've seen there be a lot of discourse from the Final Fantasy player base where they want FF logs like deleted or something, but I couldn't figure out why.
Oh, this is a very Japanese. It's a very Asian MMO thing. Because Grau, you played Lost Ark, right?
I did.
Lost Ark damage meters existed.
Yes.
They were specifically banned, but people used them off the record. But if you were caught using one, it was they would ban you. And it's across a lot of Asian MMOs, it is seen as a toxicity tool. I don't know how to perfectly describe it, but like there's a lot of negativity that comes with knowing specific performance and the ability to optimize.
Right.
If people don't have the tools and ability to optimize, they won't be as harsh for critics in order to figure that stuff out.
No, this is a crazy topic, and I can actually speak like directly from this because I played Lost Ark and I never had damage meters, and it changes the way that you see the game almost.
Yes.
When you know, right? So for instance, like let's say you do LFR and you go in, you kind of know that everyone's a mouth breather and no one knows what's going on, but you don't really know the extent and you don't know who it is. You just are sort of part of a collective, right? Like you're in the group. But just imagine like a world where you have no idea how much damage you're doing, and then one day you show up to keys and your friend shows you that he's literally doing double your damage, and he's been doing double your damage for the entire time he's known you, and you're just that bad. And it's like a really weird dynamic to go from a place where you don't have damage meters to a place where you do. And so I think that I don't know how. I really enjoyed the concept of not having damage meters. A lot of WoW players will bark at me. A lot of people say, oh, I love DPS meters, I love details, blah, blah, blah. It's a very, very direct way to let you know that you're not doing well, right? Like as a DPS player, you go into a dungeon, you're doing way less damage than everybody. You see that's all you care about. It slaps you in the face.
You
and
focus
on
very different things, right?
Yes. But without damage meters, it's just different, I guess. It's hard to explain, but the way that you see the game, like it's just much more harsh. Like you're so hard on yourself, you're hard on others, other people are hard on you when you're constantly, everything that you're doing is being evaluated versus like, it's almost like playing a DPS versus a healer in a way, right? Where no one gives a shit about the healer's HPS in a dungeon. No one cares. You know what I mean? Like, think about, I guess, do you have any thoughts on that, Tettles, now playing a healer and being 0 to hero? Like, no one sees... Right,
like no one's like 10,000 DPS in every single dungeon I did, and just press PI on cooldown. Like I was just there.
Yeah,
it's kind of like I can't think of the right word, but it's almost like relieving in a way, right? Where it's not just I have to look at my damage and try really hard to do damage and compare my damage, and everyone in the chat sees my damage. It's just you're just playing the game.
Yeah, and it also focuses. It allows the developers, in my opinion, to focus on things that aren't just damage, because it doesn't matter
Right.
whether or not like there are games out there where the stats are like gives you more like cooldown regeneration. How much? You have no idea. You just know it does, and you hope it does, but you just kind of more go on vibes, and the community is more about how do we get past this mechanic.
Yeah.
Like you instead of having to always worry about it, the game is designed in a world where you don't need to optimize damage, and you can focus on how do we beat this mechanic as a group instead. And I really like that, where things aren't only focused on damage. So
I like it too. I don't. It's just hard because once it's Pandora's box, could you go to a world where all of a sudden no one is using damage meters in WoW? Like, what would that look like? Like, how big of an idiot would you be? Imagine you just turn off your details, turn off your damage meters in WoW, and never look at it or logs again for the rest of the time that you play. What that would be like.
yeah, I mean, I think WoW is too far gone at this point.
You're right.
I think damage meters are here to stay.
Yeah, but WoW 2, we have that to look forward to.
I'm in.
Yeah. I mean, there's that boss I'm thinking of, Grell, in Lost Ark. It's the interrupt boss. I don't the counter boss where like you're on a tiny little platform. All you have to do is just counter and kill the boss at the same time. You know what I'm talking about? Volton. Did you do that guy?
Yes. That sounds so familiar.
Like DPS did not matter on that encounter. You needed to make sure to parry all his attacks so that you didn't fall off the platform. That was the whole point.
Okay, yeah. That's the one where he starts breaking the platform, and then the last phase is very small.
It's just counter.
And so what's funny, we had a situation on that boss where, and this doesn't happen in WoW, right? So what Lost Ark is, I think 8-man raids, right? Or
Yes.
I guess there's different sizes, but so we had a situation where like the 3 best players, the 2 best players and me on a tanky and vulnerable overgeared paladin just lived and ended the fight for so long. Like we lived for so long with 5 people dead and just 3 people alive because it's literally just you just live like and we killed the boss. Like it wasn't about, there was no like really tight DPS check or whatever. It's literally just live. And it's in WoW, your goal is always do the most damage, and then mechanics are secondary, and they're almost things that get in the way, right? Like,
yes.
So have you ever, we're like going way off topic, especially at the end of the pod, but someone suggested this in our raid, and I wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on this. What do you think about when you're starting a hard boss in a raid, doing it without doing damage and just standing there and doing the mechanics? Have you thought about that or considered that at all? Why do people not do that in this game?
I've been in guilds that have done it before. It really depends on the boss. There are a lot of bosses in World of Warcraft where doing damage is required to progress the fight, whether it be percent-based phases. You have to kill adds on a specific time, and as it turns out, like trying to prog a specific thing without doing damage, like you end up using your cooldowns at the wrong time, and it just becomes like this weird dynamic. I do think it's good in some areas, like it makes sense sometimes, but like you take a fight like Bellerin, literally non-doable without doing damage. Take a fight like Illyria, non-doable
I actually
without doing
disagree.
damage.
I disagree. Besides the ads.
What?
So I think for me,
you have to push. Oh, you're talking. Okay, I see what you're saying.
I mean, for me, the reason why it's not done is because you are going to need to do stuff, and optimizing your damage is pretty much needed for every encounter.
Yeah.
To a certain level, and learning the fight with doing nothing, and learning the fight while also concentrating on doing your rotation, 2 different things, right? Like take Lura for example. I think it's probably possible for my guild to get to the end of the fight doing absolutely 0 damage right now. If everyone was only focused on the memory, the glaives, and how things to do. But that is not useful because the boss won't die, and the complex part of Lura is about doing all that while optimizing your damage.
But I would say that I think the problem, it's basically in my eyes, like troubleshooting. Like you're taking a complex problem and you're removing some parts of it for a time, right? Like I think part of the reason that Prog takes so long as a guild is because you're almost clouded by your damage rotation and caring about all these things. But imagine for a second that you just problem solved all the way down to the end of Lura, right? Where you knew all of the mechanics and your guild can do the dance the whole way. Then you start pulling the boss and being like, focus on your damage. I feel like it's not that hard. Like, it's not that hard to figure that out, and everyone can do that individually.
I think getting reps and doing damage is actually a really big deal. Like even on the hardest fights, even on those bosses that you're pulling 200 or 300 times, getting reps and doing damage, like.
I think for Lura it's the opposite route. I think there are bosses where that would absolutely work better.
What do you think about Silken Court was the first? Is that what that boss is called? I always don't. Queen's Court was the one in BFA. Silken Court is
I think
in theory you could have done that entire boss without hitting it, right? There was like the weird fixate at
there's the shield in the intermission.
Okay.
I think Silken Court would have been okay for it. I think it would be an okay for it. Basically, like the challenge of Silken Court was learning the entire dance, right? Those types of fights I think are fine. The difficulty of Lura, in my opinion, is the cognitive load of all the mechanics overlapping. Of having to do memory while having to pay attention to constellations, while doing your rotation, while moving the light in the right spot, while healing everybody, like those things. Where Silken Court was not that. It was about getting the rotations right, knowing what to do in the intermission, which way do you go, how far do you go, which orbs do you soak.
I guess I just feel like so often during Prog, it feels like the problem is that someone doesn't know what's going on at a specific point or doesn't understand, like there's not clear communication.
Yes.
But if everyone in the raid learns all of the things before, because like in theory, the correct answer would be everyone studies Omega hard and learns everything and watches their POV of the fight, right? Before a raid, right? And they know all of the mechanics and all of the overlaps in that. And then only after that does everyone show up to raid, and then they practice implementing their damage and doing the mechanics. But in real life, nobody, like half the raid doesn't do that, right?
Yeah.
Like people just show up in blind Prog, or they watch a vid for 5 minutes and they're like, okay, this is a soak I got to stand in, but they don't really understand it, right? So for me, like doing if your whole guild is there, everyone does this thing where it's like, okay, I'm going to explain the fight. Okay, here's the first mechanic. And I feel like it's really, really ineffective. And I feel like just doing the fights and just doing the motions and not worrying about damage until everybody understands all of the mechanics. And then okay, it's hard to do and it takes figuring out your damage stuff. But I feel like once you have the fight down, it's not that hard, right? Like you're just doing more or less the same thing.
I disagree with that. I think that is the sentiment that I disagree with. I actually think that doing your damage effectively while also doing the mechanics is actually a pretty big deal.
Okay. I also think...
Yeah, I tend to agree. There are certain bosses where I do think that could be really interesting, though.
Yeah, I also think, like, for me, maybe it's just specifically the way my brain works and the way I learn. I'll watch a vid, and I'll... this is a hard boss, right? Over 100 pulls. I'll watch a vid and think that I understood what's going on, but then I do the fight and then I have the questions, right? Like then I'm like, oh, does he send his second Ray of Frost on this ad? Where does he go when he gets this mechanic at this specific spot? It's only after I do the fight that I understand what to look for in a video. Does that make sense? Like it's hard for me to like understand going into it, but once I put my character there and I'm moving it around and I see where the pain points are, then I like piece it together and understand.
I think that's fair. I mean, everybody learns differently, but I think the main reason why people don't do it, to answer the original question, is just because a lot of fights
I think that's the main reason. I actually unironically think that the main reason is because it's not fun and people just don't want to. But I genuinely think that on a hard boss where it's going to be like, okay, this is going to take us like 5 or 6 raid nights to clear, I think spending one raid night of just doing the mechanics without DPSing the boss. The other counter that I kind of thought to that is like your healers can't do that, right? Your healers and your tanks have to still play and still do it, and you're going to be barriered by them anyway. That's a consideration, but yeah, I don't know. I still think it would be beneficial on some bosses.
I mean, we did it on Fallen Avatar. That was the boss that my guild we did it on, where we wouldn't even like hit the boss. We would just like go through the motions of the phase for a little while, and then Fallen Avatar was also unique where you could force yourself into the P2 whenever you wanted to, and so then we would also go into the go through the motions of the P2, and I think that actually helped us out a lot. But I do think that something that we missed on that was actually doing your damage rotation is kind of important while also learning those things, because there is cognitive load associated with doing your rotation. A lot of people think that some people think it's pretty minimal. I actually think the amount of cognitive load that's required to be able to do your rotation correctly is a little bit higher than people give it credit for.
I think it's very high, and I think it gets in the way.
Yeah.
I think it gets in the way of understanding the problems of the fight. That's sort of why I'm suggesting.
Sure. I mean, I guess I feel like that's not an aspect that I really want removed, though, right?
Yeah.
I just think that it might help problem solve.
It's definitely an interesting thought experiment. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer.
I think it ties a lot into what Blizzard was talking about with not overloading the player and giving players enough time, right? Like, the best example I have is Web Blades on Ansarek or Glaives on Lura. Both of those mechanics, if they were alone, if you were doing nothing else and were focusing, like, you were playing a Flash game that was like, dodge these things, you would be able to do it till eternity. But the second you start throwing in other stuff, that's when they get hard. And that's when,
that's probably right. It's probably that there are enough mechanics and hard fights that you need that are only hard because you need to do your damage rotation, that you might learn some things, but also you're just gonna you're still gonna have to prog the other stuff anyway.
Kai Vezon question mark difficulty as a healer versus the DPS.
I think one of the things, especially as a caster, is knowing how long things take to come in. Right? Like, how long does this swirly take to land? Do I need to cancel my cast halfway through? Do I need to cancel it, 3/4 of the way through? Or, like, can I finish my cast because it takes forever?
Yeah.
That's something that I know I've been hit by. Like, the Nexus point ones I just die to all the time, or get stunned by all the time because I think it takes longer. Like, this is stuff that you may not be intentionally paying attention to, but, like, behind the scenes, subconsciously, you're probably paying attention to them and be able to hone in on when you're able to go.
Yeah, you're still gonna be dying and wiping to that shit. Even after you do all the motions, there's it'll probably, or it could be, the argument I guess is that it's a net loss on prog to waste time early trying to figure stuff out, because you still have a shit ton more prog to do after, even if you know the fight I guess it's just interesting to think about, because I'm almost not sure on some fights. Like, I feel like, at least when I look at the Raiders in my guild, I'm like, it's pull 90 and this guy has no idea what's going on in this phase. Like, he does not know what the mechanic is.
So
but maybe that's a me problem.
So Grau, Bellerin dies tonight. That's what you're saying?
Bellerin dies or we die.
Oh, you looking for a new guild?
I mean, people are gonna be pissed if Bellerin doesn't die.
I mean, I think I'm excited for Bellerin to die for you, and I hope you guys get it, because I cannot wait for the Lura stories to start.
You're excited for us to get over Bellerin because you want us. You're like, can I watch them suffer on something else?
The hate watching it reached its climax, I think.
I mean, you tell the good stories, man. It's good. It's good.
Yeah, love my guild. I should talk and I complain, but I have fun. It is all in love, and okay, it's not all love. Sometimes I'm pissed.
I just got it.
You're gonna have another crash out like on Twitter on Soken Court?
Dude, I just logged in and I got a notice from Xwin Tools. It says, due to Blizzard's restrictions in 12.0.5, the interrupt tracker can no longer work as before. A temporary experimental replacement is currently in place. All interrupts now use a fixed 15-second countdown and cannot yet be changed based on class. Some possible approaches already exist, and we will continue to test improvements. This notice will be removed after 1 week. What the fuck?
That's so funny. Yeah, so basically, like, with the add-on stuff, people just look for any... Before, all of the information was given to you in the game, and so you just ask it and it tells you. Now there's stuff being hidden, and so the things people are doing is they're trying to be like, oh, a mob got kicked. Like, that
Guess.
means someone used their kick.
Yeah.
And then now it's basically like guessing, right? It can see that a mob got kicked, and so it's like, okay, one of our like it's gonna be like, think about how like janky of a kick tracker that is, where it just shows 4 kicks and it doesn't tell you who's or who, but then anytime a cast gets interrupted,
15
it just
seconds.
kicks one off. 15 seconds, like that's basically what it is, right? Like what?
Okay, real talk. I'm honestly surprised people have not done something where like you made a program, everybody ties their kick bind to it, like it's like a macro. So every time you press R, it triggers some kind of keybind for a program that just has a thing on a web page. Like I press R, it triggers my cooldown tracker on a web page.
It's
Well, that
literally
would be
cringe
cheating.
as fuck.
Am I wrong?
Well, that would
No.
be I mean, that's cheating, right? That's
Yes.
cheating.
Is it?
I mean,
I think
Is it?
so.
They've said no overlays.
A kick tracker on my second monitor.
How is this
No,
different?
man,
How
no
is
kick
this
tracker
different?
on my
Please,
second
man,
monitor.
I don't want
Than
it.
a sixth person.
You're right.
How is this different than a sixth person with a 5 stopwatches timing all 5 monitors?
Listen, you're right.
Is that illegal? Is that cheating?
That's the episode. Goodbye, guys.